When it comes to TV shows, very few are able to almost immediately hook you in and make it difficult to stop watching like the show From does. From the very first episode, it pulls you into its mysterious, unsettling world where every answer leads to even more questions. The atmosphere is haunting, the characters are complex, and the story keeps you constantly on edge. It's the kind of show that refuses to let you go, leaving you thinking about it long after you've turned off the screen. Now, From does have the same lead producers as Lost, so if you're a fan of Lost, that's another reason to check it out. But if you've seen Lost, you probably know that they kinda messed up the last few seasons because the writers were just making it up as they went. So if you're worried From will do the same thing, I don't blame you. But here's some good news. Harold Perrineau, who plays Boyd in From and Michael in Lost, made the producers tell him the entire story before he signed on to the show. He didn't want to go through the same thing he did with Lost, so don't worry, they aren't just making it up as they go. They've learned from their mistakes. But what is it about From that makes it so captivating, and why has it come so close to being a modern masterpiece? In this video, we're going to talk about everything From does amazingly, but also where it lacks a little. Also, there will be minor spoilers in this video, so if you want to go in spoiler free, then what are you waiting for? Go watch the show. But don't worry about any major spoilers like character deaths or any big mysteries being solved. And for anyone who knows nothing about the show, here's a little breakdown of what it's about. The show starts with the Matthews family going on a road trip in their RV. Everything is going smoothly until they see a tree blocking their way, forcing them to turn around. But when they turn around and start driving, they go into a small little town that wasn't there when they first drove up the road. But this isn't any ordinary town. And after continuously driving, they slowly start to realize that no matter how many times they keep driving down the same road, they will always end up at the town again. But them not being able to get away from the town, or as fans like to call it, Fromville, is the least of their worries. Because when night comes, these scary vampire-type monsters come out, but the unique thing about them is that they only walk. And as one of the characters, Kenny, says it, it's because the monsters know there's no escaping the town, so it's only a matter of time before they will get and kill the town's residents. So now that we have a general rundown of what the show is about, let's start talking about what From does very well. First, let's start off with the mystery behind the whole show. Being stuck in a place where you can't leave isn't the most original idea, but it's what's inside the town that makes it so interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, the monsters in From only walk, they don't need to run. But just for the record, I'm pretty sure they can run if they wanted to. But what makes them even scarier is that their motive isn't just to kill, they enjoy tormenting the trapped residents. This leads to some really creepy and fun scenes where the monsters talk to the characters, messing with their minds and practically playing with them just to scare them, or make them frustrated and angry so they go out and do something stupid that will get them killed. The monsters also aren't the only things they need to worry about. Some would say they're just the tip of the spear. It's also one of those shows where you never really know what the hell is going on. Like I mentioned before, even when you get answers, they just lead to more questions. But what's cool about From is that it feels like the writers actually have everything planned out. There are so many moments where a character says something that doesn't seem all that important at first, but later when you get deeper into the story, you realize there was actually a hint or even an answer to one of the mysteries. It's like that one moment in 21 Jump Street, when Johnny Depp's character makes a joke about being a cop, and then later in the movie it turns out he really is one. From has a lot of those subtle moments that you don't notice right away, but hit way harder when you look back with future context. There are so many tiny details hidden throughout the show, even in the background of scenes. It's practically riddled with little hints and clues you can pick up on if you're paying close enough attention. Even in the intro, which is easily one of the best intros I've ever seen, is packed with subtle details. At least, that's what I'm assuming, because it definitely feels like there's more to it than meets the eye. This is also one of the most unironically funny shows I've ever seen. I don't even know if the writers are doing it on purpose, but it's definitely fun to make jokes about with friends. Also, I'll be honest, this show works best when you can binge it. Watching episodes back to back makes the story flow so much better. The downside is when you're watching it weekly. One episode will leave you on a huge cliffhanger, and then you have to wait an entire week for the next episode, only for almost nothing to happen in that one. For example, in Season 3, they hint at a new monster or creature being introduced, but Boyd, the main character, literally says they have enough problems on their hands, and they're going to not worry about it until it gets any worse. So I guess we have to wait 2 years for season 4 to explain what the monster is. It can be frustrating, but we just have to accept it as it is, unfortunately. But now, let's take a moment to talk about the characters. For the most part, the characters in From are pretty good. Of course, there are a few that could use some work, but the ones that truly stand out are the main character Boyd, and especially Victor. Let's talk about Boyd first. As the main character, we spend the most time with him, and the show does a great job of showing how the town slowly breaks people. At the start, Boyd gets mad occasionally, but he's usually able to keep it together. But by the time we get to season 3, you can really feel how much the town has worn him down. It feels like at any moment, Boyd might completely lose it over the smallest inconvenience. And it's not just Boyd. You can see the town slowly start to break almost every character in different ways. Then there's Victor. He's been in Fromville since he was a little kid, so he's definitely not all there. But honestly, can you blame him? He spent most of his life trapped in a place designed to torment and drive you insane. Victor is, without a doubt, the most interesting character in the show, and he's acted by far the best out of everyone. But if we're talking about the acting, we've got to address the elephant in the room. At the start of the show, a lot of the actors aren't that great. Not all of them, but the majority definitely have some room for improvement. But the good news is that the acting gets a lot better as the show goes on. Pretty much every single actor in the show improves a lot. For example, the actress who plays Julie starts off pretty rough, but by season 3, I'd say she's one of the better acted characters in the entire show. So if you start watching and notice the acting feels a little off, don't worry, it improves a lot as the series progresses. And while the acting gets better as the show goes on, there's something else worth mentioning. Some of the episodes, especially later on, can feel a bit slow. Don't get me wrong, the slower pacing is sometimes used to build tension or dive deeper into the characters, but there are moments where it feels like things are dragging way more than they need to. Like sometimes two characters would just be talking about something that doesn't really matter, and we get nothing out of it. But, who knows, the show isn't over yet, so maybe those conversations will actually turn out to have some sort of relevance in the future. And if you go into the show expecting quick answers to some of your favorite mysteries, you might end up a little disappointed. From is very consistent about taking its time, slowly building the suspense, and only giving you answers every once in a while. But when those answers finally come, it's one of the best feelings. It's like the show is rewarding you for sticking with it, and the payoff always feels worth it. And that is why the show From is almost a masterpiece. And if you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it. I've got a lot of my friends to watch it, and they've all enjoyed it. Even one of my friends who doesn't even watch TV shows enjoyed it. But be warned, once you start, it's very hard to stop. And if you've made it this far into the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to see more content like this. I might even make a video on From theories that could be true in the future, because I'm sure there's a lot of interesting theories we could talk about. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.